Sri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai, Bhagavad Gita, Song of God, translated commentaries by a pure devotee of Kṛṣṇa, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Let's see, we're in just a couple of verses. We're at the point here where Arjuna asked Kṛṣṇa, who's acting as his chariot driver, to take him to a vantage point where he can see who's assembled to fight. And when he sees who's there to fight with him, he can't do it. It's his relatives and his friends and his family members. He just can't do it. And he has kind of like a breakdown right there in the middle of the battlefield. His body's shaking, his skin is burning, and he's crying. I mean, come on, he's a big warrior, right? He's dropped his weapons. So, we're at that point. Nacha saknom yavastatum brahmativa cha me mana nimittani cha pasyami viparitani Keśava. It's text 30, chapter 1. I'm now unable to stand here any longer. I'm forgetting myself, and my mind is reeling. I foresee only evil, O killer of the Keśī demon. Prabhupada's commentary. Due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay on the battlefield, and he was forgetting himself on account of the weakness of his mind. Excessive attachment for material things puts a man in a bewildering condition of existence. Bhayaṁ, dvitīyābhiniveśataḥ. Such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium take place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. Arjuna envisioned only unhappiness in the battlefield. He would not be happy even by gaining victory. The word nimitta is significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? Everyone is interested in himself and his own welfare. No one is interested in the Supreme Self. Arjuna is supposed to show disregard for self-interest by submission to the will of Kṛṣṇa, who is everyone's real self-interest. The conditioned soul forgets this and therefore suffers material pains. Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him. Nacha shreyo nupasyami hatva srajanam ahave na kankshe vijayan Kṛṣṇa nacha rajyam sukhanicha. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsman in this battle. Nor can I, my dear Kṛṣṇa, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Prabhupada's commentary. Without knowing that one's self-interest is in Vishnu or Kṛṣṇa, conditioned souls are attracted by bodily relationships, hoping to be happy in such situations. Under delusion, they forget that Kṛṣṇa is also the cause of material happiness. Arjuna appears to have even forgotten the moral codes for a Kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men namely the Kshatriya, who dies directly in front of the battlefield under Krishna's personal orders, and the person in the renounced order of life who is absolutely devoted to spiritual culture, are eligible to enter into the sun globe, which is so powerful and dazzling. Arjuna is reluctant even to kill his enemies, let alone his relatives. He thought that by killing his kinsmen there would be no happiness in his life, and therefore he was not willing to fight, just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook. He has now decided to go into the forest and live in a secluded life in frustration. But as a Kshatriya, he requires a kingdom for his subsistence, because the Kshatriyas cannot engage themselves in any other occupation. But Arjuna has had no kingdom. Arjuna's sole opportunity for gaining a kingdom lay in fighting with his cousins and brothers and reclaiming the kingdom inherited from his father, which he does not like to do. Therefore, he considers himself fit to go to the forest and to live a secluded life of frustration. And then these next verses are a beautiful soliloquy that really Shakespeare's Hamlet, his soliloquy kind of echoes this mood. So the Sanskrit, Kim no Rajena Govinda, Kim Gobar Jivatenava, Yesham Arta Kangshitam no, Rajam Boga Sukhanicha, Ta ime Vastita Yadhe, Pranam Chakva Dananan Cha, Acharya Pitara Putras Tataiva Cha Pitamaha, Matula Swasara Putra, Shala Samba Dinastata, Etan Nahantum Ichami, Natopi Madhusudana, Api Trilokya Rajasya, Heto Kimna Mahi Krite, Nihatya Datarashtrana, Ka Priti Sajjanardana. English. O Govinda, of what avail to us are kingdoms, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed in this battlefield? O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandsons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, brothers-in-law, and all relatives are ready to give up their lives and property and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, though I may survive? O maintainer of all creatures, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. Prabhupada's commentary. Arjuna has addressed Lord Kṛṣṇa as Govinda because Kṛṣṇa is the object of all pleasure for the cows and the senses. By using this significant word, Arjuna indicates what will satisfy his senses. Although Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses, if we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, then automatically our own senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses. He wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely, when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. Arjuna's deep affection for community and family members is exhibited here partly due to his natural compassion for them. He is therefore not prepared to fight. Everyone wants to show his opulence to friends and relatives, but Arjuna fears that all his relatives and friends will be killed in the battlefield, and he will be unable to share his opulence after victory. This is a typical calculation of material life. The transcendental life is, however, different. Since a devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can, Lord Kṛṣṇa willing, accept all kinds of opulence for the service of the Lord, and if the Lord is not willing, he should not accept a farthing. Arjuna did not want to kill his relatives, and there were many, if there were any need to kill them, he desired that Kṛṣṇa kill them personally. At this point, he did not know that Kṛṣṇa had already killed them before their coming onto the battlefield, and that he was only to become an instrument for Kṛṣṇa. This fact is disclosed in following chapters. As a natural devotee of the Lord, Arjuna did not like to retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers, but it was the Lord's plan that they should all be killed. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotee by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them. Yeah, Duryodhana and his brothers, they did a lot of nasty stuff to Arjuna and the Pandava brothers and their mother. They went out of their way to try to kill them and harm them and poison them and ban them and burn them and embarrass them. And they went out of their way. So Krishna's done with that. It's okay. Let's get everybody here on this battlefield and just wipe the slate clean. But Arjuna, he's not seeing like that. And Arjuna continues, Papam eva shrayedasman hatvaitan atatayina tasman arha Bhayaṁ hantum dhartarashtran swabhavavam swajanam hi katam hatva suhina shamamadava. He says, sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Kṛṣṇa, husband of the goddess of fortune? How could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? And Prabhupada's commentary. According to Vedic injunctions, there are 6 kinds of aggressors. A poison giver, one who sets fire to the house, one who attacks with deadly weapons, one who plunders riches, one who occupies another's land, and one who kidnaps a wife. Such aggressors are at once to be killed, and no sin is incurred by killing such aggressors. Such killing of aggressors is quite befitting for any ordinary man. But Arjuna was not an ordinary person. He was saintly by character, and therefore he wanted to deal with them in saintliness. This kind of saintliness, however, is not for a Kshatriya. Although a responsible man in the administration of a state is required to be saintly, he should not be cowardly. For example, Lord Ram was so saintly that people were anxious to live in his kingdom, Ram Raj. But Lord Ram never showed any cowardice. Ravana was an aggressor against Ram because he kidnapped Ram's wife, Sita. But Lord Ram gave him sufficient lessons, unparalleled in the history of the world. In Arjuna's case, however, one should consider the special type of aggressors, namely his own grandfather, his own teacher, his friends, sons, grandsons, etc. Because of them, Arjuna thought, he should not take the severe steps necessary against ordinary aggressors. Besides that, saintly persons are advised to forgive. Such injunctions for saintly persons are more important than political emergency. Arjuna considered that rather than kill his own kinsmen for political reasons, it would be better to forgive them on grounds of religion and saintly behavior. He did not therefore consider such killing profitable simply for the matter of temporary bodily happiness. After all, kingdoms and pleasures derived therefrom are not permanent. So why should he risk his life and eternal salvation by killing his own kinsmen? Arjuna's addressing of Kṛṣṇa as Madhava, or the husband of the goddess of fortune, is also significant in this connection. He wanted to point out to Kṛṣṇa that, as husband of the goddess of fortune, he should not have to induce Arjuna to take up a matter which would ultimately bring about misfortune. Kṛṣṇa, however, never brings misfortune to anyone, to say nothing of his devotees. So then Arjuna continues on for several more verses, giving what appear to be very reasonable arguments based on religion and integrity and compassion. He's giving lots of arguments why not to fight. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.